Hello everybody, Radar Ryan here. Welcome back to another weather update, and today it's going to be more focused on what's going on with the tropics, specifically in the Atlantic Ocean, where things have heated up for us very quickly over the past week or so. So what I'd like to inform everybody on first is that we do in fact have not one, but two tropical storms currently in the northern Atlantic Ocean, one of which was a Category 1 hurricane at one point. Thankfully it weakened since then. The biggest question raised when you hear this is, well, would it impact any land? Where is it going to make landfall? Any communities? Anywhere people live? Well, put shortly, it's not likely that either of these will be making a direct landfall on any land at the moment. Now, of course, this can certainly change, especially with this guy right here, Tropical Storm Earl. Now, notice I said direct landfall. This is because it's very likely that islands like Puerto Rico and St. John will be receiving some of the effects of the outer bands of Tropical Storm Earl. To start off, I'd like to now give you guys a more in-depth meteorological breakdown as to what's really happening here with these two storms, and what's likely to happen in the coming days and even weeks. Now, satellite imagery and radar data reveal that Tropical Storm Earl persists as a severely weakened tropical storm. As you can see, it's not a whole lot of organization here, but it's definitely coming together as we move along. But if you really look here, we can see that this system has this really low-level center located to the west of the main convective area. Many satellite wind speed measurements recorded from some of the hurricane hunters remain in the 30 to 50 mile per hour range and have varied only slightly since the most recent advisory. Based on this, the current strength actually remains at 40 miles per hour, the most maximum wind speed we're dealing with here. Now, the track guidance remains in good agreement that Earl should definitely move west-northwestward with a decrease in the speed of its movement during the next couple of days, as it'll be steered by what's called a subtropical ridge, being pushed in by a center of high pressure. Now, following this period, as we can see here, a more gradual process is expected to take place toward the north, and then eventually towards the north-northeast. You can actually see this taking place here in one of the radars. This is actually the HWRF model. We can see right now it's actually moving northwest, more northwestward, and then it's going to start beginning to shift as it's passing by islands like Puerto Rico, St. John, Virgin Islands, that whole area. As you can see, once it passes there, it's then expected to definitely intensify a whole lot more. You can see more well-defined walls beginning to form here, more stronger bands. You even see the millibaric pressure beginning to drop as well. You can see then it begins to take a turn towards the northeast. This is because there will be an upper level trough that develops here over the Atlantic to the northwest of Earl. But it almost serves as like a barricade or a blockade, so it can no longer move northwest, which will cause it to eventually move northeast. Earl is even enduring the results of moderate westerly wind shear, which is actually expected to continue over the next 48 hours or so. This is why the probability forecast calls for only slight strengthening during this time. And as you can see here, this forecast becomes more uncertain as Earl turns northward though, even though some shear is likely to be present. Now, the forecast modelers are in relatively good agreement that this cyclone will definitely strengthen, presumably due to a supportive response to the upper level trough that I talked about earlier. However, there is definitely poor agreement between the models in the specifics of this process. Now, as we can see here, for the time being, as it begins to pass through those islands I mentioned, tropical storm force winds are really more forecast to remain on the northern and eastern side of the center, and as a result are not expected to reach northern leeward islands, the Virgin Islands, or Puerto Rico. However, any southern movement of Earl's center would definitely increase the risk of tropical storm force winds in those areas, just southwest here. If we actually reverse it a little bit, we can see Puerto Rico right there and some of the islands. So that's basically a more thorough evaluation of what's expected to happen with Earl, which of course brings a lot of uncertainty. But now we move on to a tropical cyclone, which was once a hurricane, the first of the season actually, but has now thankfully downgraded into a tropical storm due to stronger wind shear and cooler waters. Which brings us to Tropical Storm Danielle. Now, convection associated with this storm has continued to decrease this morning, with a decrease in satellite intensity as well, as you can see here. See, it begins to intensify there a little bit, and then it begins to weaken some more. And based on this decrease, it is estimated that Danielle is actually weakened back into a tropical storm with the strongest winds at 70 miles per hour, meaning it's no longer a Category 1 hurricane as it once was. But as for right now, and even for the past couple of days, it's really been meandering here in the northern Atlantic, which almost looks to be stationary right now. And it really is a blessing that it's not anywhere near land, otherwise it would just be dumping rain over the same area continuously for the period of a few days. Which almost reminds me of Hurricane Harvey we had back in 2017, and the devastating flooding it brought to cities like in Houston, Texas. Now, this cyclone is still lingering south of a preventing high over the North Atlantic. You're not able to see it here, but it is actually in place. And this pattern is actually expected to continue for the next couple of days, with the actual system forecast to shift more westward, just slightly here, as you can see here, just slightly moving westward, and then nearly immediately after it'll shift more northward and then more northeastward. I'd say after 48 to 60 hours here, this high will begin to weaken and allow Danielle to move more northeastward at a faster speed, as we can see here. And then, of course, after this, it looks like the forecast has been revised to move more eastward. Because, like I said, this guidance from the models is constantly changing, making slight changes in direction, especially with Danielle here, with these slight shifts in the winds. Now, the intensity guidance is still calling for Danielle to strengthen over the next 72 hours or so, as it'll run into somewhat warmer water. However, once this is all said and done, Danielle looks like it'll move toward more cooler water in the northern Atlantic, as it has not too long ago, and of course, cause it to weaken, as we can see here, and the intensity guidance. So anyway, guys, that's basically what we've been facing in the Atlantic here, and that'll also bring us to the end of this update. But overall, just to recap, Tropical Storm Earl right here, as you can see, is forecast to pass near or just to the north of the northern Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and even Puerto Rico over the weekend. Gusty winds, especially in squalls, are definitely possible to affect those islands over the next day or two. But as far as Danielle, it's pretty much going to be the same thing it has been doing over the past couple of days, which is just linger over the northern Atlantic, strengthening and weakening as it travels through fluctuating water temperatures. I'll try to keep you guys updated as much as I can on what happens with these two systems and how much they will intensify on my other social media platforms. Links are in the description. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this update. If you did, be sure to like the video and consider subscribing to the channel for more. With all that being said, hopefully you enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.